What's going on, world, and welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations. My name is Jason Warner. I'm your host. Candid Conversations is brought to you by the Own the Vision Academy and One Institution. We're going to have an amazing show today. Our special guest is the visionary and founder of One Institution. And we're going to talk about today, as soon as he gets in, are we too busy chasing success? The reason for this conversation, and it's interesting, I was having a conversation with my wife about success shaming and what are we really doing, or what are we chasing? How do we achieve success? Are we just in this rat race? And I reached out to Keenan and we said, this is probably a topic that we should discuss and we should look at. I think too often, and this is for me, that we are too focused on chasing success and often forget to live. We're chasing that next zero, that next accomplishment, that next what have you. And, too often we also tell people, smell your flowers while they're there. So in this Candid Conversation, we're going to have an in-depth discussion, just a conversation really on chasing success and the pros, the cons. How do we create balance? How do we maneuver in this process of success? What are the steps that we can do to provide balance? We were looking at the comments on the Facebook poll that Dr. Davis put up, and some people started talking about the society that we live in and the cost to live in the society, that too often that we're forced to chase success, to just afford the things that are going up, thinking about inflation, thinking about the cost of housing right now. Interest rates are down, but the cost of housing is exorbitant. And just to meet that, you have to keep striving, keep thriving to a point of success. So we're going to dive into a lot of these topics when our special guest, Dr. Davis, hops on and joins us. Hopefully we'll have him here soon, so we can get into this conversation and we can give all of us some ideas how to navigate it. Just remember, on Candid Conversations, we don't have all the answers, but we're here to create the dialogue. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Dr. Keenan Davis to join us on the conversation.
What's up, brother?
Dr. Davis, you're live. Thank you for joining us on this Candid Conversation.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was telling the folks that you are the visionary behind One Institution. So, we are blessed when we have you on the show. Candid Conversations is brought to you by One Institution and Own the Vision Academy. So we were telling the audience a little bit about, what this conversation is and how we came about. The chase for success, right? The balance of life, and are we too busy chasing success and missing an opportunity to live? And I remember when I called you and talked about this, I said one of the pictures that you have posted that stands out to me the most is you and your daughter fishing, right? Yeah. And to me, that's what means the most, more than, the accolades, the career advancements and different things like that. However, I also was talking about how my wife and I were having a conversation about, do we focus so much on success that we shame the person that says, you know what, I just want to be a daycare teacher because I love kids. I just want to be a football coach because I love inspiring. They may not pay the millions and millions of dollars that the American dream brings about, but is that success in their own right? So let's kick it off, brother. How you doing today?
Man, I'm great. Apologies for the lighting. Obviously, this is we're in a, what do you call it? During COVID, right? So everyone's in makeshift. You got like pre-K going on in one room. You got a wife working from home. I'm thankful to have a daughter in pre-K. I'm thankful to have a wife in her career and the ability today to work from home. So even though I'm sitting here telling you I'm apologizing for the poor lighting per se, I can at least say I appreciate the reasons why my lighting is poor, right? Hell of a question, hell of a conversation. is one that actually I didn't know that would spur so much conversation and thought, but having received text from one of my boys today, Derek Reed, shout out to Moki, telling me that this really stuck with him in terms of his pursuit of happiness. A little homie reached out to me yesterday, Michael Booker, shout out to Booker, and saying like this is something he struggles with. So I don't know if it's a black male thing that we struggle with, or it's just in the totality of it. We're trying to pursue greatness, right? You have so many people, so many institutions, so much infrastructure telling you generation after generation, you're not ish. And then you start to either believe it and become ish, or you say, nah, I'm gonna break the chain and I'm going to be great. Like I would, like, you know, I'm going to break out of this mold and I'm going to be great. And so finding a balance of that pursuit of greatness and also cherishing the opportunity to build greatness within your four walls at home. And that's if you're fortunate enough to have a spouse and obviously fortunate enough to have a child or children. That balance.
I definitely would challenge it being a black male thing. I think it's just a part of proximity. I really think it's an American thing, right? Mm-hmm. We have been set up, especially in this capitalistic society, to achieve more. It's centered on achievements and undoubtedly greed, right?
Right.
I'm blessed to have a different perspective, right? Because my wife wasn't born here. She was born in Ethiopia, raised in Sweden. And she talks about, and I asked her one night, I said, you know, so many people, when they get here into America, they talk about how bad America is. And I said, but why is it that so many people flock to America? And she said, you know, America does a great job. They're the best marketer in the history of the world, right? Yeah. So they sell this American dream. And once you get here, you spend so much of your resources and you're like totally invested. You have to make it work. However, when you look at other countries, and I think we talked about this before, when you look at other countries, they create a balance for you, right? They have holiday, they have siesta, they have, you know, a longer maternity and paternity leave. They have different things put in place for us to succeed. So as I transition, I just want to start off with Davis. How do you define success for you personally?
That's why you're the host. That's why you're the host of Candid Conversations, right? You get down to the crux, right? And that's a hard. Listen, I come from the mud, and you know, not everyone knows my story, but mom pregnant 16, had me at 17. You know, the struggles that we had, you know, until I was probably low 20s, helped define my mentality. And that mentality is that of, you know, I'm gonna get mine. You know what I mean? Like I'm in this life, like, and I'm not gonna live on my knees. I'm gonna stand up on my feet and I'm gonna go get it. Like that's just my mentality. And it's been my mentality until I became a father. When I became a husband, I started to think about it.
Right.
My wife's a star. But when I became a father, my definition of going to get it, I'm using that phrase instead of success, because success is arbitrary. It's arbitrary, right? Somebody's the sign of success that comes from a single parent, teenage parent is like not having kids at a teenage, you know, as a teenager, to breaking that cycle, right? Or being able to get married and having a 2-parent family, that's breaking that cycle, right? That's somebody's success. Somebody who came from something, they would define success as something different, right? So I'm using just the term go get it, right?
Right.
My mindset of just how I define going to get it has changed. It's changed to the point where now I'm making sure my kids are prepared every day. I'm making sure my wife is mentally, physically, spiritually nurtured, right? I'm making sure that as the head of my household, I'm going to get that first. And I'm taking care of everything within my four walls before I take care of anything on the exterior. So as the old saying, my version of success is being able to sweep around my own front porch.
It's interesting, right? Because I think for many of us, as we grow, as we mature, as different situations happen in our lives, the bar moves, right? It may be not a monetary thing that we attain or we're reaching for in that success measure. It could be just time with family, right? And I had a mentor tell me one time, and for those that don't know, my background is public relations, right? Marketing and public relations. He said that you're in the field of managing relationships, but the most important relationship you have to manage is the one with yourself, right? Think of it as a wheel. And in that wheel, you have different spokes. So you have your personal relationship, your financial relationship, your spiritual relationship, any romantic relationships. All of those relationships kind of define you. And if one of those relationships is off, the spoke in the wheel is broken. So that wheel runs wobbly or flat, and it's harder to move down the road. So I think as we grow, we pay more attention to these relationships as we're quote unquote chasing success. And I learned at a young age that I worked to live, not live to work. And I think sometimes we as Americans get caught up in that race of, I have to get there early and leave late because this is that measure of you're doing a good job versus, no, I have to get home to my family as soon as I can because that time is limited. For you, do you think that measure has changed a bit since you've gotten older?
Absolutely. I believe certainly that the measure has evolved because, and in full disclosure, right? By most measures, I'm successful. Full disclosure. And I say that with humility. So I think, I don't think that's the reason why I've been able to pipe down my pursuit. I think really what that's done is shown me that the hardest thing to do is stop yourself from trying to get more once you get something. Like it's an addiction.
Right.
Once you set out to do, hey, I want to buy my mama crib. Okay, you did that. Now what? Like the end game wasn't ever just to buy my mama a crib. That was just something that I felt like I had to do. That was my duty because we suffered together. And the one thing I wanted her to have in this life, was a crib in a cul-de-sac. And so being able to change my measure is because I felt like I am addicted to it. I'm still addicted to it. I feel like Redfin or Zillow, that little person that's doing I feel like that little person gonna pop up with the headphones and be like, your black ASS is not supposed to be looking at this price crib. You can't afford that. Like I'm waiting for that lady to pop on my screen and be like, dude, stop it. You're right. You can't afford this. So I'm addicted to the process. However, Dr. Ebby Parsons said this yesterday, actually, in the thread about this conversation. He said, there's no harm in bringing along your spouse or your significant other and your kids with you on your journey. Because what that does is it creates a symbiotic relationship of the pursuit with the people who you love and respect the most. So at that point, you going on the road, you creating a business venture, you spending time on a passion, and your kids are spending time with you on that passion. Your wife is going along with you on that entrepreneurial pursuit. That way, you're not bargaining or robbing Peter to pay Paul, as old folks used to say, and compromising the relationships that matter the most. Because what happens is, and unfortunately, I know too many men that have gone through or are going through the unfortunate breakup. And, sometimes it has to do with not having the ability to spend an adequate amount of time or create the right balance in pursuing the hustle and also taking care of home. And I'm not saying you should be at home and be broke, or be, dreamless, or, be listless and not just moving. I'm just saying that if you don't find that balance, the end result does not usually look good.
So you said a lot of things that I want to kind of unpack. So you talked about that addiction to success and that drive for more, right? And I think as humans, that the quote unquote powers that be have figured out that formula, right? I was watching the documentary, the Social Experiment, right? The Social Dilemma, Social Dilemma, and they talked about how the founders of Facebook and Instagram and Gmail and Google and all these different things, they have used algorithms based on that addiction. So like you're going to be addicted to one of those things, through TikTok to Facebook scrolling, to Instagram scrolling, to Twitter, to your email. They talked about how, people grab their phone and look at their email, their social media before they even check if their legs still work, because we're addictive personalities. So I think once it's programmed into us, like it was come to the new world to get these riches. So people flock to the Americas, and they did the gold rush. They did all of these different things, but we're still chasing as Americans and as humans, right? We're still chasing, and we're pushing this narrative across the globe. But the other thing that you said that was interesting, and I want to give that, I guess, counter argument. And this is if you can bear with me, a little story that I was told some years back. And it talked about a doctor, a lawyer, and a corporate CEO. They were best friends. And every year they would take time and go spend a week on this fishing island together. This is their goddess trip, right? So they go down there and they go to the same, stay at the same cabana, and they have the same fishing guide. And every year they would tell the fishing guide, like, why don't you do more? You can hire people and you can expand this empire to have millions and millions of dollars. So years go by, and the attorney, he dies of a heart attack. All right. So the corporate CEO and the lawyer, they continue to come back. Fast forward, they still tell them, you're still doing the same thing, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you push? You can make all this money and, do whatever you want. So a few years later, the next person dies, right? And finally, it's the corporate CEO. He's there. He's just alone. He still comes back every single year because that's their ritual. He's going to do it. And he gets to retirement, and he says, we've been coming to you every single year, and we push you, and you have all this worldly knowledge, like all these different sectors, right? That you can gain knowledge and grow and expand your business. And he's like, why haven't you ever taken our advice? You still keep sitting here. And the man said, what are you going to do when you retire? He said, maybe I'll move down to a fishing island and fish and, spend the rest of my days. He's like, I live what you want to do when you retire my whole life. Right? So we continue to chase what we want to do at 60, 70, when you barely can actually move comfortably to do it, right? And I think that goes to the point of, I agree with gaining access to do the things that you want. But I also want us to be able to create that balance, right? So we can smell the flowers, we can experience life, we can do the different things. Even if we don't have the hundreds of thousands or $1 million in the bank. What's your take on that story?
I think that's a challenge, though, Jason. I think that's the biggest challenge that we as Black people have, is that we've been marginalized, we've been subjugated, we've been set aside, placed on the periphery, and held, and held beyond the boundaries of advancement since the inception of this country. And that's not having a guilty mentality. That's not, that's not crying foul. That's just being factual, right? And I think the hardest thing for us is that we're now in a generation, technology has helped a hell of a lot, that we're like, man, enough is enough. Like, we're smart enough, we're tough enough, we're fast enough, we're good enough. F it. we should have the same thing that our fellow Americans have. Now, and that's the challenge. The challenge is the sprint toward that, right? Because in order to go get that, you have to give up something. Because it takes time to go get it. It takes sacrifice. It takes compromise. It takes something. Nothing's for free. You're going to have to give some skin. Put some skin in the game. You're going to have to give maybe even some flesh to get what you want. And so you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Now, one of the plans is go get it before you have a family. Go put yourself in position before you bring other people into your stuff. Right. Got to preach to somebody. Like, before you actually, decide that you want to have kids and have a marriage and obviously a significant relationship, then be selfish, because success is selfish. Like I got 3 degrees. Obviously, you know that. But for the people who don't know, I have a doctorate degree in law and public policy. I have a master's degree in management and organization leadership. And I have a bachelor's degree in general studies. Don't ask me what general studies is. Look, I had to go get a master's and a doctorate based on my general studies bachelor's. But what I'm saying is that education journey took years. It took a lot of self for me to go attain and earn those various letters, right? And so for me to go do that, and had I did all of that with kids, I would have compromised some time, some resources, and energy away from my 2 beautiful kids and my lovely wife, right? And so I know, Jason, I know you're gonna jump in and you're gonna put your spin on it, but I really want us to make sure for the audience, for all those beautiful people out there listening, we love y'all too, by the way. We want to make sure, I want to make sure specifically today that you understand from me that everything that I've done, most of it was selfish. And out of that selfish behavior, I'd say 70% of it was when it didn't compromise anybody else.
So in that vein, right? You said you've gone and got the degrees, the multiple degrees and different things like that. And we always are looking for that return on investment. What's the next piece? How do we keep moving forward? And you talked a little bit about how, our ancestors didn't have. But I also take back, and this is close to me because this is just my experience, right? So my grandparents were children of sharecroppers in South Georgia, right? However, they had land, they had farmland, and they farmed. My grandmother was a teacher, and my grandfather was, this is my maternal side, he was the county agricultural commissioner for coloreds. So he did, manage the farming for Black folks in South Georgia. But at the end of the day, they didn't have a lot financially, but they were happy. They came home and spent time at the dinner table every single day together, right? They spent Saturdays and Sundays not trying to get that second job and third job and this and the third. They were, they may have worked in the field and gathered their vegetables and different things like that, but it was family time. I think too often right now, we spend a lot of time leaving the first job to get the second hustle and the next hustle to pay for the third hustle and going to get that next degree to get the next degree so that we can attain these things, this mythological American dream or global dream of success that we're all chasing. And if we look at the numbers, the median household income in 2019 was $68,000 a year, right? Only 15% of the US population makes over $100,000. Like, what are we really chasing? Are we chasing this dream that they gave us? And only 10% makes more than $200,000. The median household income, that's combined. Like, if there's 2 people working, that's combined $68,000. So we're continue to chase this thing, this mythical thing that someone said was success. But what is that really? If we actually sit back and say, you know what, let's control it ourselves. Like, we can dictate what success in this country or this world is.
I like the way that you circumvented your original point about America is the biggest and the best PR company in the world. You know, New York City, Manhattan is the biggest PR company in America, and America is the biggest PR city capital. It's the PR universe, right? And I love the way you brought it back to statistically. You quantified what it looks like in real. So you qualified it in the beginning, and you quantified it just now in saying that, look, these are the numbers. This is how much we make as Americans. This is the percentage of us who actually make $100,000 a year and $200,000 a year.
And that's combined. That's not individually.
Not singular, right? Not independent earned, but combined making, you know, $17,000 a month combined. That's $200K a year, by the way, combined.
Right.
And so 16.6 to be exact. With that being said, if our mindset is around, because, you know, we're selling, we're marketing, we're publicizing things to purchase, things to buy, things to do, places to go. It costs. So you want to make, you know, that attainable, or at least appear attainable to all of us. And I'm not saying, look, I don't want to come across as a person who doesn't want more. I'm telling you, I'm addicted to it. I think we all are. I'm addicted.
I think we all are. I think we all are. I think this conversation is about the balance, is how we create the balance.
The balance is, you know, I would hope that at any point in my own home, if I didn't see my wife look at me the way, with the same respect, the same eyes of, you know, love and security and, you know, high character that she has since the inception of our relationship, I hope that will cause me to be a pause for concern for me and my addiction. If my kids still didn't have the same affection, or if I didn't have the same, we didn't have the same response toward one another, and our love language no longer existed, I would hope that would be a pause for my addiction, right? So I guess if I'm giving advice, I'm saying the balance is, you got to know yourself. You got to know who you are and what you mean to other people, what they mean to you, and how that looks as time goes on. Because if you see those relationships starting to flounder, and you see like the relationships that mean the most, that matter, if they're starting to be unbalanced, then you got to really ask yourself some tough questions. Is it worth it? You know, and so for me, when I hang up, when I get off this telecast, right, I'm going to call Jason on the phone, and we're going to talk about the hustle. We're going to talk about the pursuit. So, but at the same time, he will hang up with me at any given moment and be like, hey, I got to do something with my wife. Hey, I got a 16-year-old about to be senior that I got to make sure I take care of. Hey, I got, you know, Bryce and Bethany. Or I might be like, look, I got Cairo awake and I got Parsa. Like, family first.
Bryce and Addison.
Family first.
You know, so it's interesting, right? So we had someone watching the podcast, and they said some Americans earn $68,000 a year per household, right? But we need to discuss debt and having that experience, how it plays into the chase. And I think that goes into that American dream that has been sold, right? So we accumulate so much debt to chase this American dream of everything that they advertise in front of you. Is like, you have to have this. If you don't have this, you're not a part of the in crowd. If you don't have that, you're not a part of the in crowd. If you can't go to this $200 Beyonce concert, you know what? You've missed out on something. If you don't drive the newest Porsche, the Bentley truck, guess what? But based on those numbers, 68,000 household income, most people can't afford a Mercedes, Alexa. They can barely afford a Toyota Camry. But we will die into debt to chase what we call this American dream. Like, how do we change that psyche, right? I know we're addicted, right? So we know that as baseline. How do we start to change that as we move forward?
I love the solution, and you always get to it. If y'all not watching Jason Warner hosting Candid Conversations, you're missing a hell of a telecast, but you're missing an opportunity to take away some nuggets that are solution-driven, actionable items that can be implemented. Look, we're here to make our society better. We're here to advance the community for Black people. We're here to bring some color and diversity and inclusion into the into society. We're here to press upward mobility. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of us can get on these conversations. We could be talking heads. We can have great conversations. But how does it help the one person that's listening right now that's teetering on the edge, right? How does it help the people in the thread that we had going on communicating like, hey, I struggle with this. Like, what's the solution? And I can only speak and be vulnerable, right? I think I can tell you about me in my life. I'm married, happily married, 2 beautiful kids, a 5-year-old and an almost 18-month-old Tank. Tank, because he do little homies a Tank.
Shout out to Cairo.
Right, yeah. Cairo's a Tank for real, for real. But so I can only be vulnerable and hopefully believable and relatable to each of you. In my life, I want a vacation house somewhere warm and, somewhere warm and like sunny. My mama's good, and I want to leave my kids 0 debt and some tools and resources to live their best lives in what is continue to be a changing society, one that'll be technologically driven for sure for them. And I want them to be skilled and well-resourced to be able to not just survive, but thrive in a new age. In doing so, the best thing I can do for them is be their father. The best thing I can do for them is show them love through the lens of my relationship with their mother. Those are the first 2 things that I can do in my pursuit of success. My pursuit. I didn't name anything about monetary value. I didn't tell you about how I'm going to go get that beach house. I told you that I have to dot my I's and cross my T's because the most important thing to me, more than the beach house, more than, having something else, is being able to show my kids respect and love for each other and the sanctity of marriage and parenthood. So I would say to each of you, what is the most important thing in your life? If it's not more, because you always gonna want more, right? Listen to me. Full disclosure. I sold my first house for almost $1 million. First one I ever bought. Like, if I'm gonna be good on this, I'm gonna have to be very vulnerable, right, Jason? I'm gonna have to. My first crib, wife and I, sold for almost $1 million, 960, something like that. And so I know what it's like to go get it. I know what it's like to want more. I look at houses that I know I can't afford. I'm telling you. Like, I look at houses that cost like 40, 60, 80 million dollars. I don't want to know what it looks like. I want to know, do they got different stories? Like,
I mean, that's part. I think that's part of an addiction. We talk about
that's part of it, right? That's part of it. So I'm sharing that. So you get where I'm going, Jason. You always want more. It ain't never enough. And so once I understood that I'm going to always be addicted to this, I had to ask myself, what am I willing to lose? And I ain't willing to lose none of the stuff that matters the most. My wife, my son, my daughter, my mom, and my closest homies. I'm non-negotiable. If you don't have a non-negotiable in this pursuit, your ass gonna lose something.
It's interesting, right? So, as we're doing this show today, I got a call early in the morning from, I'll call him a mentor, big brother. I mean, just the OG. And he called me and he said, I just needed to share this. And his spirit always moves, and that's how he moves, through his spirit. Mm-hmm. And he said, Jason, I don't know if I'll be able to hop on the call, but I wanted you to hear my perspective on success. And he says, the thing I teach my children, and the piece that I live by, I don't focus on the zeros. Those are just placeholders. I focus on the 1 through 9, right? So you can have all the zeros back there, but the zero, if there's nothing in front of it, it's still 0. It's empty, right? He focuses on the 1 through 9, and 1 through 9 are not the financials, right? Those are the intangibles, like your work ethic, your character, your dedication to your family, dedication to your health, dedication to your community, because he may not have the same money as an Arthur Blank, founder of Home Depot, the president of the owner of the Falcons, all these different things. But he says he's willing to bet that his philanthropy in percentage is bigger than Arthur Blank's, right?
Wow.
Arthur Blank may be giving, 20% of his wealth. But if the big homie is giving 30% or 40% of his wealth, even though those numbers are different, his percentage is still 30 and 40%, right? He said there was a little old lady, they were out giving out meals in a community. And the next week they came back, the little old lady in a wheelchair, that they gave her a meal. They saw her looking out the door. The next week they said, you know what? I don't have much, but take this. And he said it was a huge jar of nickels and pennies. Right? We don't know what percentage of hers that she gave, right? But it's the 1 through 9. It's not the zeros in the back. We focus so much on chasing the zeros that we forget about the character components that build us as human beings. So he said, make sure I leave everyone and let them know to focus on the 1 through 9, the things that make you up as a human.
Jason, that was beautiful. That was really a beautiful story. Like it resonated with me because you used the word character, and money challenges your character. Resources, an abundance of, they challenge your character. And in most faiths, they have some kind of, scripture or, that suggest about the difficulties in being a person with extreme wealth, right?
Right.
And there's a reason behind that. There is, because you start thinking differently. I see people with real money, like real money, real bread. I've been fortunate enough to work with somebody that was worked with somebody's worth about 600 million at the time. And I got a chance to see me and him, like one-on-one, 2 years, like stayed at his crib, the whole 9. And he's worth 600 million. And they move different, clearly. They think different. They respond differently. And, their families get broken up. I'm not saying I'm painting with a broad brush, but it comes with something. And I'm not saying we're supposed to live this life just being happy at home, raising your kids, being a good husband, and broke as hell. No. I'm not telling you that. I'm not about to do that. I'm telling you that find something that you can take your family, your things, that the people who matter the most on a journey with you, so that you pursue it together, so you hustle together, so you compromise and you sacrifice together. Don't do it by yourself against the grain of what you think you're protecting. You can't go against the grain. That story ends the same way every single time, and it's not going to be in your favor. Go with the grain being your people, your kids, your husband, your wife. That is the way, Jason, that you pursue your definition of success, right? You got to work an extra job, see how, like a side job, a second job. Can it be something that is it a yard lawn job? Can you bring your kids with you, help you, right? Is it something that you're doing in the house, cooking? And you want to put together a recipe, a cooking show, a cooking business. Can your wife help you? Can your husband help you? Do the deliveries. Like, we got to do our strength as Black people have always been each other. That's been our strength, right? Because that's all we ever had. We never had an institution. We never had an infrastructure. We never had the resources. All we ever had, we never had a state or the government protecting us. We had each other. So if we go against the very thing that has kept us helped us survive in this country to get to a position that we can actually think about making that shot. We can actually think about catching that pass, analogies, making the play. We can't go against what's brought us here, which is each other. So, Jason, you used the word character. I loved it. That was beautiful. You own your stuff today. Today is a Tuesday. But Jason's demeanor, he has, and this is my dude. So, y'all, full disclosure, one of my favorite people in the world. And I mean that. Like, I get teary-eyed thinking about it, and I ain't even really emotional like that. But homie is a good human. And, we're rolling out something. We haven't announced it publicly, so we won't do it yet. But I'm just so thankful. I'm so fortunate to go on a journey with him because I know his character. And I know, he used the word, but character is what's going to get us from last place. It's not going to be because, we outwork the other ethnicities. Hell, we've been outworking the other ethnicities. Like, that ain't new. You know what I'm saying? It's not because we're going to be smarter than the other ethnicities. We already been smart as because we had to survive this BS. So it's not like we're going to get more smart or get, more something. Like, what we got to do is double down on our character.
Well, brother, I definitely appreciate you. I accept my flowers while I'm here. One of the things I want to do, and as we prepare to close out, is I always challenge thought. Right. One of my favorite quotes is from Albert Einstein. What we use on the vision is, you can't solve a problem with the same mindset used to create it. Right. And you kind of alluded to not going against the grain. But one of the things I want to look at is we focus so much on how we got here based off American culture. And while some of these African empires failed, we need to look at the past to see some of the things they did great, right? Mansa Musa was one of the wealthiest men to walk the earth, right? But he had a belief of it wasn't his, it was everyone's. And he gave and he gave and he gave and he gave. And he had more than enough to give to the world, right? If you look at ancient African cultures, they were conquered because they believed that the earth wasn't theirs, and everything that you learned and everything that you gathered was yours to give. So we can build communities that are surrounded by us, and we don't have to chase success because everyone has an opportunity at a little bit of piece of it. But we have to try to shift our mindset to say that this monetary success, those zeros, are not always the end game. If we focus on the 1 through 9s, if we start to shift our mindset to say, you know what, we're bigger than what they're selling on TV. We're bigger than what this idea of this dream of this hamster rat race, because the numbers are showing it. Like the median household income, $68,000, right? And I remember, we look at these jobs. You go to a 4-year institution and say, the goal is to make X, Y, and Z. Well, if the median is, we got 335 million Americans, right? That center point is 68 households. So that's like, 34 person? These high-paying jobs, these high-paying things that, like, you will be chasing all your life to get there. But if you stop and think about and enjoy the things that you have and don't have to, quote unquote, keep up with the Joneses, as a society, as a community, as a whole, I think we'll all be better, right? Focus on the 1 through 9s. Focus on just, doing like Dr. Davis said, guys, take care of your household, take care of your family, take care of your kids, do the things that you need. And yes, some will be those outliers. Some will be the 100,000, 200,000, a million plus earners, and, will be able to give their charity back and their contribution to the community. But I just want you to leave this conversation knowing that don't beat yourself up if you didn't get this level of success that you thought you should have. I mean, we're all in this together. I mean, most America's in this together. So, I think some of these expectations are unrealistic based off of what we call this American great PR firm. Dr. Davis, I'll let you close us out with some final statements and give some of the folks something to think about.
No, I appreciate the final statements. And, deep breath. We're going into the holiday season. Obviously, Thanksgiving is upon us, and just learning how to give thanks for the things that, that matter. There's a saying, there's no, without your health, there's no wealth, or health is wealth. I think that, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, like without those versions of health, you really can't go create a version of wealth. And so there is a reason why, what you put in your mind, the way you think determines the way you feel, and the way you feel affects the way that you act. Like thoughts and feelings are equally or more important than actions. They determine your actions. So, not being a psychologist here, because that's not what my doctorate is in, but being a person of sound mind, being a person with basic feelings, I can tell you that's helping me in my actions toward the balance. I'm keeping my thinking in the place that matters the most, which is my family. I'm keeping my feelings toward the people who matter the most, which is my family. And my actions as a result of are straying away and putting me in a compromising position with my family, because I am addicted to the pursuit of success. I am. And so for anybody else out there listening that may be dealing with that addiction, with the pursuit, for the pursuit, in the pursuit of success, your thoughts, your feelings, make sure they're in the right place. Because if they're toward the cash, if they're toward that thing, there are other things that also will be compromised, because nothing's for free.
Brother Dr. Davis, as always, I thank you. As I end this point, I just definitely want to say I got to give a huge shout out to my wife, Zara. My bank account may not say it, but she makes me feel like the most successful man on the planet. So I salute that. I'm going to give a shout out to your wife, because I've seen the change in you since you two have been together, the growth, the maturity, the things that matter. And that's what it's all about. This has been Candid.
Can I say something? Like,
I guess you got there right before the cutoff.
That's y'all, for you, whoever stayed, for those that tune in later, right? Thank you for tuning in. Those that hung along for the whole telecast, way to go. Thank you. I didn't get here by myself, right? My mom gave me great wings, right? My wife, Dr. Hussein, she taught me how to fly. And I have to make sure that the things that are coming out of my mouth and the movements that you see me display, whether it be audio or visual, social media or traditional media, you need to understand that I am protected in a way emotionally at home that allows me to fly.
Well, that's what makes it well worth it. Guys, this has been Candid Conversations. Are we too busy chasing success? We dropped some nuggets. It's been brought to you by Only Vision Academy and one institution. We're just thankful you took some time out to share with us, to listen with us. Until next time, I'm Jason Warner for Dr. Keenan Davis. We're out.